So, do you think winning an argument is about being right? Do you think that being right is more important than intimate connection? Hmm. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how to win an argument, and it's not going to look or sound anything like you expect or even desire, probably for that matter. I'm going to be going over 5 techniques how to win an argument with your partner. Who this is not for. This is not for people who refuse to back down. If you're somebody who cannot back down, who feels like you have to have the last word, this episode is not for you. This isn't going to work for you. Who this is for people who want peace. This is for people who desire more intimacy over being right. So, with that being said, I'm opening the floor for you guys to ask questions. As you come in the live, you're watching Marjorie with Purpose. I am your relationship coach. And today we're going to be talking about how to win an argument. One of the first things I'm going to talk about, which probably many people aren't going to be able to do because when you're so high in emotion, you're unable to think clearly. So before I go over these 5 techniques, let me just say, in order for you to even display this behavior, you have to be emotionless. You have to put on your rational brain, your logical brain, in order to be able to pull this off. So, for those of you who get so overheated, so upset that you're hollering and screaming, by the time you get to that point, none of this is going to work. So, one of the first things I'm going to point out is I had this number 5, but I figured let me make this number 1 actually. The first thing I'm going to say, end the argument before it even starts. End the argument before it even begins. And how do we do that? How do you end the argument before it starts? So I'm going to go over some more details that kind of piggyback off of this. So we'll make that number 1. We'll say number 2, ask questions. Be curious. Work to gain understanding about your partner. Don't assume that what your partner is saying is what they're saying. I know that sounds like, what does that mean? But what that means is don't assume that what the words you hear is all they're trying to say. Take the time to ask questions. Welcome in, Trend. Great, another video making me mature. I thought you was gonna teach me how to check my man. Okay. Would I get one? No, it's not what this is about. This is about easing the tension, ending arguments. Because look, people think arguing is about winning. If you're somebody who thinks you have to win an argument, you've already lost. Because you're arguing with somebody who believes they're right. And you obviously believe you're right. So that means nobody knows who's right. And we don't know what the truth is right out the gate necessarily. So what we're wanting to do, more important than winning an argument, is better understanding your partner. So ask questions. Ask why are you feeling that way? Why did you say it that way? So you said A, B, and C. Let me tell you what I'm understanding. This is how I understand it. Does that sound correct? Maybe not. Let's find some common ground. Let's have a better understanding of each other. The goal is to better understand how your partner thinks. Men and women do not think the same. Men and women do not express themselves the same. So if you're not asking questions and you're just assuming you understand what they're saying, there's going to be tension. There's going to be arguments. You're going to be offended. So before I go down more into that, I'm just going to go over these steps. So here's an easy one. A lot of you may not like this, but you're going to sometimes it is good to just end the argument saying, "You're right. You're right." End it there. You are so right. Even if you don't believe they are, who cares? Do you want to make more love or do you want to be right? Do you want a deeper, intimate relationship with your partner or do you want to be right? Sometimes the option isn't both. Sometimes you have to choose one. Say number 3, this is going to be a hard one for a lot of folks. Apologize. It doesn't matter if you felt like you did anything wrong. Apologize and say, you know what, I could have done better. What, and you can ask, what do you feel like I should have or could have done better in this circumstance if you're not sure? Because you may not know. It's helpful to get another person's perspective. But don't be so prideful and arrogant and egotistical that you can't apologize and question, wait, maybe I could have done something differently. Because guess what? I say it takes 2 fools to keep some mess going on. Most people are not going to argue with themselves. So in order for an argument to persist, 2 idiots have to be going back and forth at each other. So who's going to be the mature one? Who's going to be the diffuser? Who is going to be the one to cool down the situation, look at themselves and say, you know what, I could have done that differently. I could have said that differently. Maybe I shouldn't have been so irritated when I said A, B, and C. Maybe I could have been more patient when I said A, B, and C. I will do better next time and actually do better and actually recognize what you could have done better and actually do better in the future. So there's that. Here's one that's probably going to be difficult for a lot of folks too. If this number 4 will only work if the situation is not too serious. My husband and I, we've had arguments about lettuce. So when situations like that, and not even arguments, but where we kind of agitate each other for little simple things. When it's little minor things, do something as simple as make them laugh. Make your partner laugh. Ease the tension. Tell a little joke. We like to just kind of point out that an argument is about to begin. We'll be like, why are you trying to argue with me? Why you want to start an argument? And it makes us laugh to just kind of to diffuse the situation. I think I wanted to play this clip. Let me play this clip right fast while I'm thinking about it. I thought this was so good.
Stops arguing or stops trying to explain his side of the story.
Yeah.
Make no mistake, that is not submission. That is not him finally agreeing with you. It is a man who has decided you are no longer worth the energy of a conflict. He didn't start out cold. He used to be the one trying to fix every crack in the foundation.
Yeah.
He communicated until he was shattered. He bought the lie that if he just explained it clearly enough, eventually he would be understood. But he learned the hard way that you cannot be heard by someone who is only listening to reply. He realized that his passion was being labeled as aggression, and his feelings were being dismissed as complaining. Even the most resilient man has a limit. He found clarity in the silence that he never found in the shouting. He stopped trying to prove his point because he realized the only way to win with certain people is to stop playing the game. If a man stops arguing, pay close attention. If a man stops arguing or stops trying to explain his side of the story, make no mistake, that is not submission.
She made that so clear. I love the way she worded that. She made that so clear because people can get tired of arguing because arguing gets nowhere. When you're hollering, when you're screaming, no one is listening. No one really is even understanding what they're arguing about. So it's so important to take the time, like I mentioned, ask questions, get better understanding. And again, like I said, don't wait until it's so overheated that none of this is going to work. None of this is going to work. Once you've gotten to that hollering and screaming and smashing stuff point, none of this is going to be effective. So These are the steps to take before an argument even escalates. Before you even trigger an argument, this is to diffuse an argument. And the only way to win an argument is to end it before it begins. Ask questions, tell them they're right, apologize, and decide you can do better. This takes a lot of humility, which most people don't have. Most people want to win an argument. Most people want to be right. Even if they're wrong, they won't admit they're wrong. Making them laugh, ending the argument before it starts. So, did you guys have any questions or um any thoughts that you wanted addressed in today's episode? Did you have any questions? Please put your questions in the chat. Oh, you're fine. Any questions, folks? But that was what I had for today, how to win an argument. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Let's see. Put your questions in the chat and I'll be happy to answer. But yeah, hopefully this was a blessing to you. I'm not gonna be here forever. I'm not gonna hold y'all too long. This is a good short one. Hopefully it's working for you. But yeah, be willing to be humble. Be willing to take accountability for your part in whatever drama it is. It doesn't matter if you feel like you didn't do anything wrong. We can always do better. We can always work on ourselves. We can always find something better in ourselves, something that we can improve in ourselves, I should say. So, any questions? What a man says, do you think arguments are foreplay for some? I think so. I think for some people who are accustomed to toxicity, it's that they get used to that kind of toxic back and forth, and it can be probably arousing for some folks. That's why I said this is not for people who want to be right, who refuse to back down. If you're a person that finds pleasure or some kind of arousal from conflict and this the bickering and stuff, this isn't going to work for you. But for folks who want peace and are willing to fight for peace, that's who this is for. If you're not one of those people, this ain't for you. Go to the next video. But that's who this is for. People who want peace and want increased intimacy over winning an argument. That's my thought about that. Good question. That's a really good question because I do think it's foreplay for some. But that's that toxic stuff that everybody don't want that. Everybody don't want that toxic stuff. Trent said, how do you not take everything personally? Like everything sounds like it's about me. So how not to take everything personally? I think as women, we tend to think that our men in a conversation. Yeah. I think women tend to believe that we revolve more around a man's life than we actually do. So I think if you're, be honest with yourself and realize, okay, I'm not the only catalyst in this man's life that, bring him frustration. He has other things in his life. He has jobs, he has coworkers, he has bills, he has other responsibilities that affect his mood. It's not just me. So that's why it's important to gain understanding of where he's coming from and not assume that everything he says is an attack against you as the woman. Be caring enough to want to know what else this man is dealing with. So a lot of people can't live without drama. I know. I can't deal with that all that drama. Yeah. be caring enough to want to have a better understanding of what else this man is dealing with, what else is triggering him. Because, just because he may say something to you doesn't mean that you're the cause. One thing we learn in coaching is that the problem is almost never the problem. It's always something deeper. So even though he may be coming at you and it makes you feel like you're the problem, everybody's not a social worker, everybody's not a counselor, but when you're in a relationship, you kind of have to think like a counselor. Like, okay, let me get a better understanding of where this person is coming from. How are you feeling? What do you mean by this? Why do you think you feel this way? What do you feel like is brought you to this conclusion? Ask questions, gain understanding, so that you know and have a better um better understanding of where your partner comes from and what they have to deal with. Yeah, assume you don't know what they deal with on a daily basis. That you don't know what else they've experienced that day that could be come out, where it cause them to lash out at you. As long, like I said, like I tell somebody, as long as they not putting their hands on you and cussing you out, calling you out of your name, people have the right to express themselves how they express themselves, and just ask questions. Doesn't hurt. It'll bring more intimacy because it'll show you care, and it'll give your partner a safe space to express themselves openly. And like she said, men, a lot of men tend to be passionate, but to women it comes off sometimes as aggression or anger. It's like, but it's like, no, he's just expressing himself. And I learn and continue to learn as a married woman that, just because he's passionate doesn't mean he's angry. He got to let it out. Even if he is angry, upset, or frustrated, he has to let it out. He has to let it out. And be that safe space for him to do so. And the same for women. Like, let your woman, as a man, allow your woman to express herself, as long as she's not belittling you, demeaning you, calling you out of your name, and and physically assaulting you. Let her express herself. Human beings have to have a safe space to release emotion, whether that's laughing, crying, rolling around on the ground, curling up like a baby. However those emotions display themselves has to be okay. So be okay with how your partner expresses themselves. Again, as long as it's respectfully and it's safe, we'll let them do it. So, any other questions? Any other questions? While we are in here, oh, I forgot to put my music on. While y'all putting y'all's questions in the chat, I'm gonna put some soft music on. I'm about to get out of here though. But any last questions before I run out? Any last thoughts or questions you guys had or wanted to share? Happy to answer. Well, this was such a good episode. I feel really good about this, but let me know if you have any last questions before I let y'all go free. Trent says, do you think a woman should set the same standards with friends as she does men she's dating? I would say in some circumstances, yes, and in others, no. I would say, yeah, dealing with, as far as respect, yes. How you want to be respected, absolutely. Um, you want your friends to your values to align with your friends. Um, yeah, because it's hard to be friends with people that you don't have the same values. Not necessarily religion, because just because someone might be the same religion, don't mean they have the same values. So, yeah, respect, boundaries, absolutely. I mean, it's you you kind of feel people out and see what, their personalities and stuff and kind of move accordingly as far as creating boundaries and stuff. But yeah, I would say so. But a man you're dating, you're going to want to kind of have a more intimate relationship with a man that you're planning to marry, because you're planning to marry him. So you're going to want him to be a little bit more transparent. You're going to want to know more about him. I think people put boundaries on friends as if they're in an intimate relationship with their friends. And I think friends probably need tighter boundaries than you would put on someone that you're potentially going to marry. You want to have more personal discussions with them. You want them to know you more personally than a friend. So that's what I would say. What a man said, do you think folks rather be miserable with somebody than happy being by themselves? Yeah, because the thing is though is if they're miserable with someone, they're probably going to be just as miserable by themselves. And the same vice versa. If someone is miserable by themselves, they're probably going to be miserable with someone. I would say, but sometimes people are with someone that they really don't want to be with, or they're not supposed to be with. So that's what's causing their misery a lot of times. But if being alone, they figure I'm not going to be happy alone, so might as well. And they might be right, because that the happiness they're missing isn't may not always be because of the relationship they're in. It may be just them, that they just miserable. They don't know who they are and how special they are. They don't know, they don't know where they're going. So their misery is caused by themselves. And yeah, being single ain't necessarily going to be the answer. It's necessarily going to be what makes them happy. Like, folks got to find out who they are and find their own joy in the Lord. But that's such a good question. You guys ask such great questions. Thank you guys so much for coming through and asking awesome questions and getting my brain juiced up. But yes, thanks for watching Ask a Coach. Catch me. Oh, we're back this Sunday for Wifery Garden. So make sure you catch us this Sunday. We'll have the girls live Wifery Garden this Sunday, every 2 Sundays. So this Sunday and then 2 Sundays from this Sunday. So catch us live this Sunday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be back at this. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I love you guys.